Hello, my last video was me getting this guitar. It's a Stagg Stratocaster. There we go, there's the headstock on it. At the end of the video I said I'd do the setup on it and record it. And if the recording ends up okay, I'll publish it, let you see how I set guitars up. So I'm just going to adjust the camera down a bit so you can see everything that's happening down on the table. You don't want to see this ugly mug, do you? No, you don't. Right, I'll just be back in a second while I adjust the camera. So what am I going to do? First thing I'm going to do is tune it up. So stick on my tuner. I've been noodling on it today, so it's pretty much going to be in tune anyway, but you never know. All in tune. So I follow the standard methodology of tune, relief, action, intonation, noodle. The noodling bit's the good bit. So now it's in tune, we need to check the relief. So there's a few ways you can do this. One off is hold down the low E on the first fret, and with this finger here, holding down at the 17th fret, and then just lightly tapping the string. You hear a slight bounce like that. That sounds pretty good. That's the way if you haven't got a capo. So with a capo, hold that again on the first fret, holding down the string at the 17th fret, lightly tap, and as long as you've got a nice little tap there, you can hear the string bounce, that's pretty good. If you got no bounce at all, that means the neck is too straight. It's like that, or not as bad as that, but it's like that. If you think there's too much gaps, in other words it's bouncing a long way, it's got too much relief. I would say this is pretty much spot on, but I do it a different way. I do it by a guy I've watched on several occasions and learned quite a bit from, a guy called Victor at Fretfriend. And what he does, he uses a straight edge, like a lot of luthiers, a lot of guitar techs do. And also he uses a feeder gauge. No, I'm going to try and, no I won't, I'll just put on a caption on what I work to. Same tolerances as Victor. So I'm a straight edge ruler. Now not everybody's got one, so I think the previous two methods will suffice. I like to be a bit more accurate, so with my straight edge, because it's cut out to match your frets, get orientated the right way, and then your feeder gauge goes underneath, in this case the 9th fret. Now hopefully you can hear that, it's just catching, which in this indication says the relief is set correctly. So that's the next part done, relief. Now the next bit is the long-winded bit, it's called the action. I've got a fret height string gauge, and you can use a steel ruler as well to measure the height at the 12th fret of the strings. Now because I've got a string action gauge, I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to have a look. I'm going to put it in the playing position, a lot easier for me to see that. And currently the high E string is set at 2.25 millimeters or 2.75 millimeters. So we can see then that there's an awful lot of height in the string action. Now there's two things that can affect that. The bridge, the height of the bridge, and the height of the strings at the nuts. So that will affect the action of the guitar itself. So to resolve that, we're going to start working on the bridge. So we're going to use our Allen wrench, Allen key, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to use this to lower the bridge saddles. So I'm going to just place it in there nice and gently. I'm just going to turn it one full rotation anti-clockwise, another full rotation anti-clockwise, which is easy enough to do on this type of bridge. If you had a fixed bridge, say with an SE cut, you'd have two posts to actually lower it by. So now I've done one rotation, I'm just going to check the string action height again, and now it's down to 1.75. So I'm going to do another full rotation, or full 180 degrees, so 360 on the rascal there, on the bridge. And a little grub screw in there, turn it again, 360 again, and let's see what's happening now. Now I'm actually dropping down the string. If you were raising it, I would suggest you just slacken off the string a bit, because you'll be putting more tension on the string. But as soon as I'm taking it down, no real need to do that. And there we go, 1.5. So that's right about a nice string height I would go for to start with. We could probably go later on, a little bit lower. So I'm going to do the same to the other bridge saddles and the grub screws. I'm going to give them 1, 2 half turns, and this is on the low E, 1, 2, and then on the next one, 1, 2. When I say 2, it's 2 halves making a hole, 1 half, second half making a hole. So let's measure the string action now on the low E, and that is now down to just on 2. I'd like that a little bit lower, down to 1.75. So I'm going to do 2 half rotations on the grub screw. Half. Got the saddle adjusted. There we go, 1.75. As you can hear. So that's the low E and the high E adjusted. Now I'm going to do a similar fashion on the other 4 strings. I may zip through this on fast forward. If I do, I'll see you the other side. So I'm just going to eyeball the radius now and see if the strings do roughly follow, well, I do say roughly follow the radius of the fretboard. And currently at the moment, yes, they do seem to be. So how I've turned these round, take them a steady at a time, means they must be okay. So I'm just going to take my glasses off now because I've got terrible short-sightedness. I've just noticed the low E is now gone way too low. So I'm just going to raise the low E. I'm going to cycle off the string a bit actually. So I don't want to cause any damage to the grub screws. Yeah, that's a bit better. That's a lot better in fact. So straight away now, let's have a little bit of a play of the guitar. It should be a lot more playable. It is, but it needs a tune because I've been adjusting the grub screws on the saddle. That is so much more playable just by checking the relief. The relief did need doing. The bridge is now a lot better than what it was. Now I'm going to have a look at the nut. Now the nut itself is also something which will affect your playability of your guitar, but also the string heights. And the way I check that is by using my feeler gauges. And the feeler gauges themselves, or you can do it by eye. There's different methods, so I've seen different people do it different ways. I'm going to work metric again, side guys. So if you're used to seeing thals or hearing thals, I might put a little conversion table up there to what I work to. But again, this is another one I got from Victor at Fretfriend. So what he does, he puts his 0.3 millimeter, 0.30 millimeter. And what he does, he then plucks the string and he's listening to the fret rattle. Now I can see by looking at it that the first fret action on there is pretty high. So one thing I would also say is you can invest in some nut files if you want to go this far with doing an adjustment of the nuts. I've got these Hoscos which a lot of people seem to think were as good as you can get. Unfortunately with the set I got, they're only set up for 10 gauge strings, but I've been assured by a lot of people that 9-gauge strings will work fine, and I've cut plenty of nuts on guitars and put 9s on and never had a problem. So what we have to do now is to adjust the string height for the first fret action. I'll be cutting the nut. So with the Hosco, I'll just show you here. If you see the writing on there, then that writing says that that is the point, whatever it is. In other words, that's the higher element. And I'm just going to get the right, first mistake, get the right one for doing the low E string, which is 0.46. So with the actual lettering facing you, you know you've got the right side. So I'm just going to gently tease the string out of the nut, put it to one side, and then what I'm going to do is make sure this is clean, and I'm then going to run the nut file through the nut 3 or 4 times. There's quite a lot of adjustment needed here, and if I get this right, the last few should be down, pressing down, so the string is going downwards when it comes out of the nut. Okay, so let's check that again. Quite a way to go. So what I might do is skip through a lot of this on the video and come out the other side and tell you what I did, because this could take a little while. I do take my time over this. You don't really want to be getting it wrong, because then you're getting into the game of having to replace the nut if you get it wrong, or do a nut repair. And that's where a guy called Philip McKnight comes in handy. Know Your Gear. He shows how you can do that in a temporary fix using any of the remaining nut that you've dislodged out of there or cut out, and uses some super glue to fill the nut slot to give you a temporary fix. He's an absolute mine of information, is Philip McKnight. I highly recommend if you're interested in setting guitars up. He's another person you can watch and listen to. Very knowledgeable. Okay, so we're getting a bit of rattle. So that seems a little bit better. So I'm just going to go and do the A string, whiz through that, whiz through on the camera, because it is rather lengthy. If I don't want to make any mistakes, I will take my time, because it's something I really do want to take my time on. So I'm going to get the next one, which is 0.28mm, or 11th thou, I think as it's called. I'm going to do the same again, but this time I'm going to select this nut file. I may not show it very well. And that is the gauge, or the one that I've got. Again, 10 gauge strings, and that is the 0.36. So there we go. We've got tuned it, checked, didn't have to set the relief. Now if we had got to set the relief, we use this Allen key. We'd have to slacken off the D and the G strings, move them out of the way, and if the it's fitted straight in, how unusual, because I don't have to do it. Now if we had to take relief out of the neck, we have to do righty-tighty, so looking from where the Allen wrench is all the way down the neck, you bring the key toward you, or the Allen wrench, or the whatever you want to call it, toward you, to the right. If there was not enough relief, you then push it away from you, otherwise you turn it to left, lefty-loosey. But since we didn't have to do that, we'll pop that back again and put it on the table. So I guess now we've done a very basic setup. Yeah, cut the nut, check relief, done a tune up, all the good stuff there, set the action of the bridge, the nut. The guitar now does play, even though it's wildly out of tune, got some really old strings. It's really quite playable now. I will fine tune it a little bit later on. Change the strings. So here we go. Let's find all the tools. The two main tools really, I think, really to consider are cutters and it's called Alice. Where is Alice? I'm always looking for Alice. I don't know why I can never find Alice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to relieve the tension off the strings and cut the strings. And what I'm going to do before I restring, I'm going to polish the frets a little bit. They just look a bit tarnished, and clean and condition the fretboard. Again, things that have not been done in this guitar for quite some really a lot of time. Okay, so taking off the slackened off the strings. Let's cut them. Two reasons why we slacken off the strings. One is safety, and the second one is take the strain off the neck. Purely and simply because the neck is a piece of wood that's got a bit of metal running through it called a truss rod, and we want to avoid stressing and straining the truss rod and the neck itself. Could damage it. I don't know if anybody said they've ever damaged it by cutting the strings with a string tension on. So I would advise it really from a health and safety view, and also the maintenance of your guitar. Horrible, horrible, horrible strings are off. So the next thing I'm going to do is looking at just tightening up the frets. And I say it's really a bit of gunk really. They're not filthy, they're just a bit tarnished. So I would sometimes wire wool, use the 4-0 wire wool and my fret guards. And just polish them up that way. But I think because these just need a bit of a tarnish taken off them, we're just going to use my fret guard here. I'm going to use some very, very, very fine paper here to start with. Around about 1,000 grit I think it is. And I'm just going to see how it polishes up when I do the first one. I'll just move the lighter fluid out of the way because I'll show you what that's all about and what I'm going to use that for in a second or two after I've done the frets. First fret, let's have a little look at it, see how it goes. So I'm just going to guard the frets. I mean, it's not overly worried about the fretboard itself, but some fretboards say if you've got a maple one, you really want to protect them. On the rosewood or Indian laurel, what you've got, it's fine because you can condition your fretboard afterwards. And I have to say, I'm looking at that, and that is polished up beautifully. Okay, so I'll carry on cleaning these frets at the top there. As I said, I don't think they really have had any wear. There's no wear on them. And I'll just carry on and probably skip a little bit of this. Gives you an idea what to do. As I said, this is really very, very fine pattern. Oh yeah, they're looking an awful lot better. Now it should be quite nice when I go and play that guitar with this fresh set of strings on. So only needed the one grit there. That's quite nice. They were just a bit tarnished. They didn't feel too bad with the horrible strings on. Just, I don't know why, oh, I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on, and the next thing I'm going to do then is just give the fretboard itself a little bit of a cleaver off, and we'll see what gunk and dirt we lift off. Now, you're going to use an old rag here. I think it might have been a Christmas tea towel or something at some stage. I don't quite know why. It got rejected out of the kitchen, but I've taken custody of it. It's going to come in handy, hopefully, to get some guitars and things clean. I'm just going to get this top off now, this darn thing. Back again. That didn't want to come out at all. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put a splash of this across to clean the fretboard. So see what grime and dirt I lift off of this with the Zippo lighter fluid. I'll show you what I'm using in a second. Oh yes, you can see some right grime coming off of here. Yes, that's quite grimy. And what I'm going to do is just going to go in here because there was a lot of dust around here. Yes, it's looking nice already. Imagine that's going to look nice when I start to treat it. Okay, there's a fair bit of gunk come off there. I'll try and show you. There you go. The old crisper, you can see on the side there a lot of gunk come off there. I'm going to use the other side now. About the patterns, I'm just going to drop a little bit more across because I think it probably does warrant it. Zippo lighter fluid. I don't think I'm going to need it after this, so let's put the top back on, put it in a safe place out of the way, and then just carry on cleaning the fretboard. Go up to the 12th fret and have another look. Oh yes, that is gunky, isn't it? Go to another fresh bit. And this is what I do to all my guitars. If they come in for setup through friends, family, or people I've got to know through Facebook Marketplace when they bought guitars off me, or anybody really, if they want the guitar setting up, if they say rosewood or Indian laurel type of fretboard, I will do this on all of them. I would say actually it's still a bit gunky, especially up the cowboy end, so I'm going to drop a little bit more on. Yes, a little bit more to try and get a bit more off. I've got some lemon oil to also take off some of this and also condition at the same time. Yeah, some good old years of grime on there. For a guitar hasn't been played very well, it's picked up a fair amount of, sorry, hasn't been played for a long time or very much. It's picked up a fair amount of gunk over the years. Yeah, that's getting it, that's lifting it. Oh, that's lifting it, that really is bringing it up nice now. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, still taking a bit of gunk off. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a bit of lemon oil on it. And it also conditions and also lifts a lot of the dirt up as well. I'm going to be reasonably liberal with this. And this will start to condition the fretboard. Hopefully get a nicer colour. I do like a very dark rosewood, or as dark as I can actually get the fretboard. And I bought what they call it, Monty's Instrument Food. It's the relic one they do. So it's got a dye in it and it darkens it off. I think other people I've seen on YouTube have recommended using some sort of boot polish or something like that. There's got wax in it and got a colourant in it to darken off the fretboard. But sometimes the lemon oil does that as well. It sort of brings the colour back on the fretboard, which I've found on a couple of guitars I've bought, sold, set up, whatever. Yeah, okay, so let's leave that on a few minutes. Leave that to soak in. Pop the top back on again. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just give the guitar a generally good clean all around. I'll stop the camera at this point because that really is not particularly interesting. And probably the next time you'll see me, I'll come back and I'll have the plastic removed off the pickguard, and I'm going to give the bodywork a general good clean up because it is quite filthy as well. And see you in a bit. Again, got my strings ready. I'm going to use these Rotor Sounds. The reason I use those, they're nice light, quite good value. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this guitar. So it's completely cleaned up, fretboards come up very nicely indeed. Very nice, I'll try my best to show you. It's a lot darker now. I'll show you what I use in a minute to darken up the fretboard. The horrible nasty plastic has come off. I've taken a photograph of the plastic along with the pickguard being off. They're 250k alpha pots, the small ones. These ceramic pickups as well, as you can imagine. And yeah, I've tightened all the nuts on here, on the tuners. These screws are very loose on the actual tuners themselves as well. So completely cleaned the fretboard, put off. Here we go. I'll just show you what I put on here. It's Monty's wax, it's the relic wax. So what it does, it puts a bit of wax on the fretboard itself and it darkens it off a bit. So that's it, it's ready to have some strings. I've left the back cover off, as you can see, so I can put the strings in easily, and I'm going to string it up, get the packet apart. I'll show the way I do it. I do over and under. Is that the same way Sam does on Sam Diggs? I think other people do it this way as well. It seems to work. It's a method in which you can actually lock off the strings and to remove a little bit of the slippage when you're starting tuning up and stretching the strings in. I'll put the low E on and the G. And what I'll try to do is explain to you as I go through how I do my restringing. If you want to watch a real good expert, just watch Sam Diggs. Yeah, he's very good at this sort of thing. He's a very good guitar tech. Picked up a lot of good information from him. So let's pop the E string in first, low E that is, pop it up into here. I've not talked about doing the intonation yet. There's a reason for that, because brand new fresh strings will intonate once they're stretched in than the older strings. So they will intonate differently, allegedly. Everybody's assured me that's the case, and the professionals know better than I, so I'm not going to argue with them. So what I do, I feed the string into the, make sure it's pulled up through the bridge, fed through the tuner itself. I'll just pull the guitar back a bit. Hopefully you can see that. If you can't see it, I'll get a bit closer up on one of the other strings. And what I do is do the same as what Sam does, take it back in 1 fret, lift the string with your handy Alice, wind it round, and making sure that the string goes over the string you've just put through the tuner. Pull that through, bring it up, keep turning around, and now feed it underneath. So you put like a little lock in place. I'll try and get a photograph and show you what you end up and what you're looking for, and that helps lock the string in place, but also because you put a lock there between the two, it should provide a lot of friction on there to prevent slippage. And Sam's a great believer in it, not having too much string around the post, with the belief that that provides a lot of slack. So there you go, there's a string end, and cut it as close as you can do. You don't want bits hanging out, it's very untidy. People who leave the strings hanging around ready to poke their eyes out. I'm not into that game. Eyes are very important. So the next string is the G. So we're going to feed in the G, and I'll go through again what I do. And when it comes through the saddle, this one's being awkward. The last bit. I'll try and do a close-up to show you the actual string line. If you can't get it close up on the camera, it won't focus, which I don't think it's going to anyway. I'll take a picture and I'll put on what we're trying to achieve on doing it this method. So I'll switch the camera off, finish up doing the other strings, tune it up, and then we'll do a bit of stretching in the strings. See you in a bit. Strings are on, stretched in, tuned up, checked the intonation, and yeah, there's only 2 strings that are out on the intonation. That's the G and the low E. So that's sharp. The G is sharp. So to set the intonation, we're going to make sure that the string is not under tension, because sharp is right. In other words, the bridge saddle has got to go to the right. Your left as you're looking at me. My right as I'm pointing my finger. So I'm going to strip, just go clockwise to pull the bridge over. You'll have to tune the pitch again, but we've got the tuner on there. So reason I let the tension off the strings, because I'm going to be sharpening it, aren't I? So that's the G. A little bit more, just a bit more. It's nearly there. Again, it's going to the right. Now if it was flat, you go to the left. In other words, you go anti-clockwise with the screwdriver. Tune up again. Play the note. Spot on. Right, okay. Low E. That's also sharp, so we'll just slacken that off. And turn clockwise to bring the bridge saddle to my right, your left. But it's always your right when you do this. Oh, there you go then. Right, so we're tuned up and stretch the strings in. There we are, finished, set up. New set of strings on there, intonated. nuts been cut. Yeah, the string action height's been set on the bridge. Relief didn't have to touch that, fortunately. Just give the polish, the frets over, well yeah, just minor polish. Didn't need much really. Cleaned them, well cleaned the fretboard, conditioned the fretboard. Fully set up, ready to rock and roll. Nice low action, comfortable, fully tuned, intonated. Yeah. Nice little purchase off of Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, quite impressed with it. Quite a nice little guitar. Cheap, cheerful guitar. Affordable. Fender headstock. Look at that. Take care now. Bye bye.